Hello, I am Padma Mallikarjunan. I am an enterprise support manager at AWS and I'm based out of Austin, Texas. Welcome to AWS Supports You, where we share best practices and troubleshooting tips from AWS Support. Joining me today is Tom Fijo, Ben Bertho, and Robbie Guerrera from AWS. Can you give us a quick introduction? Let's start with you, Tom.
Sure, thanks, Padma. Hey, everyone, I'm Tom, an optimization specialist based out of Chicago, and I help customers manage their cloud costs by leveraging features and tools available in the AWS console. It's great to be here on the show again today. Thank you for having me.
Hey everyone, I'm Benjamin. I am an optimization specialist based out of Toulouse in south of France, and I support AWS customer to understand, monitor, and optimize their cost and usage. Glad to be here with you today.
And hi everyone, I'm Rob Higrita, and I'm an enterprise support lead / principal technical account manager located in Austin, Texas. And I work with customers to help them optimize cost as well. And very happy to be here today to share some insights from our customers.
Thank you. Everyone, today we'll be introducing you to how to effectively monitor your AWS costs. We will specifically focus on best practices of managing and monitoring your spend. Before we get into the details, a quick note to our attendees online. Please feel free to use the chat window on the right-hand side of your screen to ask your questions and share your thoughts throughout the episode. We look forward to hearing from you. Tom, can you walk us through what we're going to be looking at today?
Absolutely. So we'll start today with the reporting and alerting capabilities that are available for commitment-based purchases. Those are your reserved instances or savings plans. From there, we'll cover tools for tracking spend against approved budgets, how to detect spend anomalies, and review checks that inspect environment health. Then Benjamin will do a deep dive into the AWS cost and usage report and how it can be leveraged by BI tools to gain insights into operational efficiency. And lastly, we'll close with a review of the AWS support plans and the importance of choosing the right plan for your account. If you had a chance to join us the past 2 weeks, we covered the see and save phases of the AWS Cloud Financial Management portfolio. Be sure to check out the episodes on YouTube if you haven't done so already. For the C stage, we addressed how to establish centralized cost visibility and the advantages of consolidated billing. For the save stage, we covered how to optimize storage and compute costs by transitioning data to lower storage classes and reserving capacity for steady state workloads with commitments known as savings plans or RIs. For today's focus, we'll cover the plan and run stages, specifically the tools that can be used to evaluate and manage those commitments, ways to plan for and control costs in real time, and how cost and usage data can be used to improve operational efficiency. So if you've purchased a savings plan or an RI to reduce the cost of your steady state usage, it's important to make sure that A, those commitments are being met, and B, that you're evaluating for new opportunity to increase your commitment. You also want to ensure that existing commitments are renewed to avoid a higher bill. Thankfully, there are native tools that can assist with these areas. The first is the utilization report, which shows how well a commitment-based purchase is being used. The target utilization should be 100% because anything below that means you've committed to usage that you're not actually consuming. The coverage report shows what percent of resources within a service are covered by a commitment. As your environment grows, the coverage percentage will decrease. So this report can be used to indicate additional opportunity through new commitments. And then we also have the expiration alerts. Make sure that you turn these on because they will send email notifications to recipients prior to the expiration of your commitment. It's very important to renew your commitments when they expire to avoid paying the on-demand rate for usage that was previously being charged at reserve rate and avoid that unexpectedly high bill. Rob, is there anything you'd like to add in regards to these lifecycle management tools for commitments?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tom. So definitely those expiration alerts are a really key kind of component to make sure you can avoid that unexpected kind of like increase in cost. And we've added the ability to queue purchases for savings plans so you can leverage those to queue up those savings plan renewals for you as well. Same thing for RIs, where you can kind of have a schedule for those renewals. And, if you decide to change your mind or you change instance families on those RIs, you can actually cancel that and change it before it happens again. So all things to take into account as you're looking through your utilization report and that coverage report items, is keeping track of what you're using for instances and use those alerts and everything to make sure you can maintain that same savings. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Rob. So that covers the tools for managing commitments, but now we want to cover the monitoring tools that examine your environment as a whole. With the variable nature of the cloud, it can be challenging sometimes to maintain control over your costs. Some organizations have a dedicated person responsible for cloud financial management, and others have an entire cross-functional team. Regardless of who is managing your cloud costs, these mechanisms can be used to plan for how much your workload should cost and act as safeguards while they're running to ensure costs remain under control. Let's dive deeper into each one. So starting with AWS budgets, let's say that your team wants to conduct a POC and has an approved budget of $1,000. How can you track spend for this project in real time against this amount? The answer is AWS budgets, where you can set custom cost and usage budgets based on filters that could be either a service or an account or even cost allocation tags. The budget that you set will trigger an alert when that amount is either in excess or forecasted to exceed. You can configure budgets for commitments as well by setting a threshold for your utilization or coverage percentages, as we covered previously. Using a feature called AWS Budget Actions, you can automate an action to be taken when an alert is triggered, such as stopping a resource. And with AWS Budgets Reports, you can create a summary report containing multiple budgets that can be delivered to development or leadership teams. Rob, this is a great tool for tracking spend, but one thing I want you to please elaborate on for our audience is the automated capabilities of AWS Budget Actions.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. You're mentioning budget and the reports and all that are great for kind of alerting you on what your spend is and setting those thresholds. But if you actually want to control some of the costs, say in your development environments where you are, or just like a POC environment that you were discussing, leveraging the budget actions can help you actually stop additional spending. Just as an example, you could have a budget action that was set up at your threshold for EC2 and say you don't want your budget to be over, $100 a month for this POC because it's really small. You can actually have a budget action that applies an IAM policy onto the account that says, hey, just stop, the ability for new run instance commands for EC2. And that way you could limit any increase in spend beyond kind of what your budget is set. And that's just kind of one example, but there are some other areas where you can leverage and implement actions. So it's just kind of a starting point.
Great. Thank you, Rob. So moving along here, we'll cover AWS cost anomaly detection next. So going back to our example with the POC, the budget's been set and your team of developers now begins experimenting. How can you be alerted to rise in costs in real time to make sure costs don't spiral out of control? Use AWS cost anomaly detection to do so, which uses machine learning to continuously monitor cost and usage for unusual spend and identify the root cause. You can configure a cost monitor that can be set at the service, linked account, or cost allocation tag level again to detect anomalies. And then a summary of that detection history can either be emailed on a daily or weekly summary, or you can even integrate the service with Amazon's Simple Notification Service, SNS, to receive alerts in real time. It's a great way to prevent unintended behavior from accruing further costs. Rob, if a customer did have an unexpected rise in cost and they wanted to resolve the problem or investigate it further, how can they go about that?
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, so cost anomaly detection has a feature, right, that it will notify you on those. So you have a couple different setups that you can do for cost anomaly detection, right? But when it detects an anomaly, so over time, it builds kind of a machine learning model, right, of your usage. And so you have a standard baseline or a gradual increase of EC2 throughout the month. Each month, But all of a sudden it detects that kind of like a spike in it. It will actually send you a notification. And in that email notification that you can get from Cost Anomaly Detection, it will have a link right back into your Cost Explorer that will let you kind of jump in there and see, exactly what caused that spike in EC2 or what day, if you want to, flip the granularity there. And that'll help you to determine, hey, like, did somebody start a new project? Did somebody forget to turn something off and they were just kind of testing some stuff? And help you and your finance team be able to investigate and kind of, know right where the issue is. You can take that to the team that was, where the count actually was if the spend increased and, work from there to understand, where the cost came from.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that Cost Explorer feature is really useful. And we'll get into that in a minute here with the demo. But before doing so, I just want to conclude with this AWS Trusted Advisor from a monitoring tools perspective. And Trusted Advisor is really nice because it helps customers save time and money by providing a consolidated view of your environment health. And these include cost optimization recommendations as well. And it's all in one place. Rob, do you want to elaborate further on the advantages and features available within AWS Trusted Advisor for our audience?
Sure. Yeah. So if you haven't used Trusted Advisor yet and you're using AWS, definitely get in there and take a look at the tool because, as Tom was mentioning, it does give you an overall view of your health. It does have a different set of checks depending on your support level, but you're going to have the basic checks available on any support level. And that's going to give you a little bit of information about security into your account. As you increase some of the different support levels, you get access into more checks, like all the checks are available to business and enterprise. And those checks will include things especially important for cost management, like low utilization EC2 instances, underutilized EBS volumes, elastic load balancers with no healthy targets or registered targets at the back, all things that you can use to kind of monitor and get a good understanding across your AWS environment, where you can start looking for savings items. So lots of checks there. Definitely, if you haven't used it, get in there and start taking a look at Trusted Advisor.
Thanks, Rob. And at this point, we'd like to move into a demo. But first, Padma, are there any questions from the audience regarding the monitoring tools that we just covered?
Thanks, Tom. Yes, we do have an audience question. Thank you for your question, JLo Zano. This question is about students and universities and teaching resources. So the question is, how do we plan for teaching students, such as like through a university? And how do we teach AWS and cloud skills to those students?
Thanks, Padma. I could take that one. So we do have a program called AWS Educate. We can post a link to that for you to take a look at. And it's going to give you kind of some resources for being able to leverage and communicating across different universities to be able to kind of help you, in that journey of being able to leverage not only just teaching AWS stuff, but using AWS resources for the education community. One thing to take note too, when you start with those accounts, of course, with AWS, we have free tier. And that free tier utilization is going to allow you to be able to spin up resources, demo and test things without having to necessarily, incur a lot of costs in AWS or anything for your kind of education purposes. So take a look at AWS Educate and also take a look at all things that we have for free tier because those will help you in kind of making sure that as you're going through your learning journey, you don't incur a lot of costs as well too.
Thanks, Rob. Back to you.
All right, so at this point, we'd like to go into a demo here. So what we have on the screen here is the utilization report. You can find this in Cost Explorer, and I'm on the savings plan submenu here on the left-hand side. And so what this will show you is for my savings plans that are active, what my utilization percentage here is. Glad to see it at 100%. At the top, you can compare the on-demand spend equivalent to the savings plan spend and the savings that's been associated with the savings plan. If you have more than one savings plan, you have an ability to track those individually down here. The coverage report is also a way to monitor for opportunity. I can see that this has been decreasing, so it might be time to purchase a new savings plan and up my commitment. You can look at this historically and see here that in June, I had purchased a savings plan for the first time. So my coverage jumped from 0 to around 40%. And then here's a breakdown of my specific instance families in my regions that are being covered by my savings plan. To set the expiration alert, you want to go to the overview page, and here you can find that manage alert subscriptions button. You can select the frequency for how much in advance you want to be alerted, and you'll receive that email. So the same capabilities exist for our reserved instances. Just make sure that you're selecting the right service here. I'm choosing RDS in this example. And again, the same utilization graph. You have your instance here that I reserved, the hours used, and the savings that have been attributed to that over my last 3 months is what I have in focus here. And then likewise with the coverage report, again, service specific, I can view a historical coverage for my RDS services. And again, looking at this back in 6 months, I can see that I purchased a savings reserve instance in June here, and what of my RDS instances is that covering. There is a separate alert subscriptions button for the reservations, so make sure that you enable that as well if you're using both savings plans and reserved instances. So switching gears over here to budgets, this is a nice tool in order to track spend against your defined thresholds. So we'll go in here and show you how to create a budget. Here's just a list of all the budgets that I have, and you just want to create that budget by clicking the button here. There's a couple of different options here. You have a cost budget, which is just a dollar amount, a usage budget, which is a quantity of a particular type of usage, and then your savings plans and RI budgets, which can be used for utilization and coverage thresholds. So I come into my budget here and I want to specify my period, daily, monthly, quarterly, or annually. And then here you can set your budget amount. But before doing so, it's important to scope your budget. So you can use this filter on the right-hand side to select different dimensions. In this case, I'm going to choose a tag that I'm interested in, my application C. If I go ahead and apply that, I now have a different view here of what that spend is. So I know what the appropriate budget amount that I want to set for that is. So choosing 60 here, just going to provide a name as well. And we'll go ahead and move to the next portion of this, which is where you define your alert thresholds. So I'm going to add one here. Like we mentioned, you can either use an actual amount. So at this case, when 80% of my budget is exceeded, I'll receive an alert, or you can use forecasted and use, let's say, 100%. This is nice because if I have in this case, if my budget were to be or my cost were to be $30 before the midway point of the month, I would receive an alert and be able to take that action ahead of time. Whereas the actual, it would have to wait until it passes that amount. So make sure that you choose one that makes sense for you. Here's where you would add an additional budget action on the next screen. As Rob covered, the different capabilities there. Going to skip that for now, and then just go ahead and review your budget and go ahead and create this. So I've got my monthly application C spend budget now, along with all of my other ones. If I want a report of multiple budgets, you can click this budget reports page and create one from here. And I'm just going to select a subset of the budgets that I have a desire in. In this case, I want my RI and savings plans coverage and utilization, and who I want this to be delivered to. So this could be, a lead architect or somebody on the cloud financial management team, and obviously when that should be delivered. So just provide a name here, and now with this budget report created, those summary reports are now going to be sent out each Sunday. So now going to cost anomaly detection. This is actually back in the Cost Explorer. And how this works is you want to configure that cost monitor. You find it here right on the left-hand side. And the cost monitors are, they have a couple of different ways that you can configure them. So the first is an AWS services, and you can only have one of these active at a time. So just bear in mind, this account already has one, but I can also specify either a linked account or my cost classification. In this case, I'm sticking with my application C theme, and go ahead and name that monitor. So that once this monitor is active, I I just need to, well, first I need to decide who's going to be a recipient of this alert, and specifying what my anomaly threshold should be. Make sure you don't set that too low, and then who should be the recipient. So now with this monitor in place, it's now sitting on my tag, and it's detecting anomalies in real time. So there's none right now, obviously, because I just created it. But for monitors that are existing, you do have this summary of a detection history, and it describes the specific anomaly amount. I want to look into this one and get more detail on what's happening here. And so this is for RDS specifically. And if I wanted to look at this root cause, as Rob mentioned, you can view this in the Cost Explorer. This is a really nice way to be able to identify exactly what's happening here. So right at the end of September, my cost rose. If I want to group this by instance type, I can see that that was due to my DBT2 micro RDS instances that I spun up. And I know that was intentional. So this is something that I can safely ignore. But that's a really easy way to be able to determine exactly what the anomaly was for. So now on Trusted Advisor here, this is the last one. There's a couple of different sections here. You have your red checks that we recommend action for, yellow checks, which we recommend that you investigate, and then your excluded items, and also the green ones as well, which aren't shown. And if you wanted to view your cost optimization checks, it has a summary of this potential monthly savings here. I can click into this and explore it further. So here I have all of my different checks. Ones that we want to highlight today are these low utilization EC2 instances, where my CPU utilization is less than 10% on an average. And so these are candidates to potentially stop or even terminate, depending on the use case here, and make sure I don't pay for resources that I'm not using. These underutilized EBS volumes is another great one. Either the volume is unattached or it's just really not being used. And this would be a candidate for deletion. There's a lot of other different checks here that we're not going to go through, but make sure that you review these trusted advisor recommendations, because this is a really nice way to have a consolidated view of your environment health. So that concludes the demo. Padma, are there any questions from the audience in regards to what was presented?
Hi, Tom. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. We do have a few questions here. The first question is from Tommy242. Thank you for your question, Tommy. This question is about AWS budgets. So as we start creating and using AWS budgets, are there any limits, or is there a cost associated with the AWS budgets?
Yeah, I can take that one. So the cost of the budgets is there's no cost for regular budgets. If you do have a budget that has one of those budget actions enabled, there is the first two are free, and then after that, it's there is a cost associated with it. And there's also a cost for each budget report that gets delivered. It's 1 cent per report, so it's pretty minimal. But those are some costs that you should be aware of.
Okay, thank you. This next question is about setting up your budgets. And then it's very clear that we can set up emails and alert notifications based on them. And thank you for this question, XBOZZ. The question is, based on the budgets, is there a way to stop the AWS resources?
Rob, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. I can definitely take that one. So we touched briefly on budget actions before, and kind of what Tom was mentioning is an additional item you can add onto those actual budgets. Budget actions will allow you to stop further things. If you wanted to actually automate like the shutdown of an item, you can use some of those notifications and alerts from budget actions or your budget notifications to automate some of that. It's not built in directly for all use cases for you, but that's where you can kind of start looking at in order to be able to kind of control, like if you wanted to specifically shut down all your resources in your AWS account, so that monthly you didn't like incur, say, more than $25 a month or something like that, if it's just your personal account that you're playing with. But the budget actions initially, emails, deny creating new resources, and then you can add on automation yourself in order to kind of take some actions using things like Lambda or those SNS notifications.
Thanks for that insight, Rob. And what I'll do is I'll add a blog on our chat window that shows you how you can get started with setting up AWS budget actions. And everyone, please feel free to post more questions. We have our experts here to answer any cloud financial management related questions for you. And back to you, Rob.
Thanks, Padma. So at this point, Benjamin is going to cover the cost and usage capabilities and how they can be leveraged to gain operational efficiency.
Yes, awesome. Thank you, Tom. So now together, let's move on to the next session of this presentation, and we'll talk about the AWS cost and usage reports. We are also used to call it CURE, and I will show you how you can integrate the data from the cost and usage report with other AWS services, like for example, Amazon QuickSight, which is a BI tool that will allow you to create easy-to-read dashboards. And we'll see one in particular called the Cloud Intelligence Dashboard that will allow you to have operational insights based on machine learning. But before diving deep into what is exactly a cost and usage report and what does the Cloud Intelligence Dashboard looks like, there is one question that we should ask ourselves. Why do we need to use the AWS cost and usage reports? So, for example, if you ask yourself the following question, what is my cost for this specific S3 bucket? What is my cost for this specific Lambda function on a specific time? Where does my data transfer cost come from which EC2 instances, for example? Or what is my spend per resource ID? So as you know, each resource at AWS, for example, an EC2 instance or RDS instance has a specific ID. If you want to know your price per a specific ID, the AWS cost and usage report will give you this answer. So if you're asking yourself those following questions, the AWS cost and usage report is the right fit for you. I will show you later a quick demonstration on how to create the cure. But now let's deep dive a little bit more on what is exactly the cure. So the AWS cost and usage reports contains the most comprehensive set of AWS cost and usage data available, including additional metadata about AWS services, fees, taxes, credits, cost categories, reserve instances, and even savings plans. So the cure itemizes usage at the account or organization level by product code, type, and operation. The scores can be further organized by cost allocation tags or and cost categories, for example. And finally, the queue is available at an hourly, daily, or monthly level of granularity. Okay, so before moving on to a demonstration, there is one more slide I would like to show you, and this is the Cloud Intelligence Framework. So we just talked about the cost and usage report, and this is the first step on our slide here. We will enable the cost and usage reports. The data will be saved into an S3 bucket. Then you'll be able to integrate this data with other AWS services, like for example, Amazon Athena, which is an SQL query service. So with Athena, you will be able to query the data from your S3 bucket. So for example, one recurrent query is give me the list of my EC2 instances that are covered by savings plans. You ask this to Athena on an SQL programmatic language, and Athena will find this information into the S3 bucket. You can also use Amazon QuickSight. So this is what I will show you with the dashboards. QuickSight will allow you to create easy-to-read dashboards that will allow you to see and control your cost. So the dashboard you can deploy, we will see three of them. We'll see the Kudos dashboard, the Cloud Intelligence dashboard, and the Trusted Advisor dashboards. Those dashboards are deployed by our technical account manager at AWS, and they are available on the free workshop on the internet. So you can have a look at them looking at AWS Kudos workshop on internet, and you can deploy those dashboards into your own AWS environment. And what is interesting about those dashboards is that once you have them, you can just edit them, change the filters, change the parameters in order to answer your own needs. If at the beginning the dashboard do not answer the needs, but you will see that you have lots of data. So I think you will get what you want to see. Okay. I think I already talk a lot, but before moving on to a demonstration, Padma, do we have any question from the audience?
Thank you, Ben. Yes, we do have a question here. This question is about creating monitors for cost anomalies. And thank you for your question, RayDB222. The question is, can you talk about how many monitors you can create for cost anomaly detection?
Rob, would you like to take this question?
Sure. So overall, you've got the different anomalies. As Tom mentioned in the demo, you can only create one for services. That monitors all the AWS services and gives you the detection based on those. And then beyond that, it was 100 monitors. I think that maybe Tom maybe mentioned or didn't mention for other monitors not related to AWS services themselves. So some limits there, but definitely flexible to be able to get those different cost anomaly items.
Got it. Thank you, Rob. What I'll do is I will post a link on the chat window that will walk you through how many monitors you can create and also has additional pricing info attached to all the tools that we're talking about today. Back to you.
Thank you, Padma. So now let's move on to a quick demonstration. So if you're into your AWS Management Console, in order to deploy your cost and usage reports, you can look at your billing console. Just write down billing into the research bar, select billing, and you will be redirected to your billing console. On the left side, you can see several tabs. So we'll search for cost and usage report. Here we go. We have cost and usage reports. We click on it. If you already have some reports created, you will have the list on your screen. If not, we can directly create one. So let's do that for this demonstration. So you just need to find a name. So I will select one already created. And I also highly encourage you to check the box include resource ID. This will allow you to save the resource IDs for each resources. So for example, you will know for each EC2 instances or RDS instances based on their IDs, what are the costs of these resources. So I highly recommend you to check this box. Next, you will need to configure the S3 bucket where your data will be located. So you can either select an existing one or create a new one. Also, just for the purpose of this demonstration, I already have a bucket created, so I will select it. You will just have to confirm that the policy is correct. This policy just allows the cost and usage report to get access to your S3 bucket. Once it's done, you will need to select time granularity, hourly, daily, or monthly. I encourage you to select hourly to have the best granularity. About the report, you can create or overwrite an existing one, so it's your choice. And then you will select the AWS service that will integrate the data. So just for the purpose of this presentation, I will select QuickSight. Okay, can go next. Oh, I just sorry, to put the path of my S3 bucket. So you will just need to specify a specific path where your data will be located. So it will create a folder. You just have to then check if all the information are correct. If not, you can edit the data and come back to it. If everything is okay, you can review and complete, and your cost and usage report will be created. Awesome. You can go back 24 hours later into your S3 buckets in order to check if the data is now available. So you need to have approximately 24 hours. So on my specific case, I already have a cost and usage report created. So we just look at my bucket, which is here. Okay, I find it. If I click on this specific bucket, I will find back the path. So cure, it's just a name I mentioned into the creation. This is a folder. And inside, I will have all the data from my cost and usage reports. Right, now I have all the data. So in order to integrate this data, you can use, again, Athena if you want to query the data using SQL programmatic language, or you can use also Amazon QuickSight. And I will show you the dashboard directly created with Amazon QuickSight. So let's move on to first dashboard. Yeah, we'll move on to first dashboard, which is the cloud intelligence dashboards. So as you can see, you have lots of data, and again, those dashboards are developed by our technical accounts managers at AWS. So on the Cloud Intelligence dashboard, the first tab is just a summary. So it will give you some quick information. What is my previous month's invoice? Was my invoice is decreasing or increasing? Sorry. What is my forecast for the current months? And what is my drill down depending on my AWS account ID if I've got an organization with several account IDs. And if you go on the other tabs and, for example, customary, you will start to have more, let's say, granular information. You will know what is your top service by spend, what is the most popular region, how many regions are you using, how many services are you using, and finally, how many accounts are you using if you have an organization with several accounts. You can have the information with a drill down per services. So as you can see on this drill down, we know that our main services, the main spend are on AWS Shield. On the left side, you have your drill down per model pricing. So now you should know that you have on-demand, reserve instances, savings plans, and spot. So depending on the model price you are using, you will get the drill down. On the right side, you have a small drill down of your top 5 spending accounts. And if you want to deep dive into each area, for example, compute, storage, arise, or savings plans, you can check out the other tabs. But let's move on to another dashboard, which we called Kudos. This dashboard is kind of the next level dashboards because it will provide you with operational insights based on machine learnings. And those operational insights will be given via a recommendation section into each of the tabs. So if I go into reserve instances and savings plan summary, you can see this recommendation section. For example, and again, it is based on my own usage. So depending on your usage, the recommendation will differ. So for example, for my usage, the recommendations are control and use cost of reservations and savings plans, and investigate underutilized convertible reservations to modify your reservations, and so on. Um, Before moving on to the last dashboards, one tab that I personally really appreciate, this is a month-over-month trends because it gives me a lot of data, and I love data. On the left side, you will have your top moves per services. So, for example, we can see the first line, AWS config increased by 144%. So this is really your top moves per AWS services. On the right side, you have the same information, but per AWS accounts. So again, if you have an organization with several accounts, it will give you the moves of your accounts. And if you're interested to have more information, you just have to scroll down and you get all the details. So on the left side, you have the list of all services you are using, the price of each of them, how many you spend, if it's increasing or decreasing month over month. And if you are interested to have a deep dive on a specific service, you can just select it, and the rest of the dashboard, as you can see right now, will update itself. So right now, on the right side, the accounts has been a filter comparing to the service I've just selected. Okay, let's move on to now our last dashboard. Yes, a trusted advisor organizational dashboards. So as Rob said, the trusted advisor will give you checks. So here you got a summary of your checks, how many are red, yellow, or green. So if you want to focus on the red one, because this is the one where we highly encourage you to investigate on them, you can just select your red checks, and it will update the rest of the dashboards. So as you can see on the right side, you have some fault tolerance, security, and service limit red checks, and then you can deep dive of them. But because we are talking about mostly cost optimization, let's go into the cost optimization tab. Right, you can see on your left side a first graph that shows you your monthly savings opportunities per check. So you have the check name, and for each check, there is an opportunity of savings. On the right side, you have the same information, but based on your AWS accounts. So you have a better drill down. And if you want to deep dive on a specific check, you just have to scroll down and you will get all the information. Every check will be present. So let's just focus on one just to give you an example before finishing this demonstration. Now let's select underutilized Amazon EBS volumes. So first of all, it will let you know what are underutilized Amazon EBS volumes. Those are machines, volumes, sorry, that remains unattached or with a very low write activity. If you want to deep dive, on the left side, you have the amount of savings, the opportunity of savings you can have following the recommendation. You have the table with all of your volumes listed that are unattached or underutilized. And then you can select a specific type of volumes, for example, SSD. And this will filter the table and give you all SSD volumes. Okay, we are now done with this demonstration. We can go back to the presentation. But before going back to the presentation, Padma, do we have any question from the audience?
Thank you for that demonstration, Ben. We don't have questions from the audience yet. Everyone, please feel free to post questions here. We have our experts here on the panel who can answer questions for you. Hey, Ben, but I do have a question for you based on the demo. Is there a cost associated to the deployment of the Kudos dashboard?
Yes, and that's a great question. So um, enabling cost and usage reports, the tool by itself is free, but the services that cost and usage reports is using are not. For example, Amazon S3, which is our storage services. Depending on the volume that your cost and usage report will create and the region where the data is served, you will be billed this specific amount. So if you want to have more information about what's the price per gigabyte of storage on a specific region, for example, Paris, Frankfurt, or North Virginia, please have a look at our AWS Amazon S3 pricing website. And again, for QuickSight, you will have the opportunity to select two editions for QuickSight. The first one, which is a standard edition, that starts at $9 per month. And the other one is the Enterprise edition. Yeah, Enterprise editions that start at $18 per month.
Got it. And I'll share the links relevant to this question on the chat window. Thank you so much. Back
Thank
to
you,
you.
Padma. Thank you, Padma. Yeah, and I just finished my demonstration talking about the Trusted Advisor dashboards. But depending on the support plan you will select, you will not have the full number of checks available. So, Rob, can you go through the different support plans available at AWS?
Thanks, Ben. Yeah. So really just want to touch on the importance because of the more checks that are available in the AWS Trusted Advisor. It's just going to give you that better visibility into your cost and some of the other items like performance and fault tolerance that are also included in some of those checks. So just want to make sure you're aware for the audience in case you're not currently running in AWS or you're just getting started. We do have these different support tiers from basic, develop, business, and enterprise. And as you can see here for trusted advisors, there's just a few basic checks that are available underneath the basic and developer. So the higher support level, you get exposed to more checks and it'll help you cost management. So if you have that business critical workload and your enterprise level workloads that you really wanted to monitor and be able to keep track of all these things and use all of the features in that trusted advisor dashboard that Ben was just covering, that is really nice to be able to get that visibility. Just take this into consideration that we have these different support plans that are available. So thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Rob. So just to conclude quickly, we just wanted to give you a quick checklist. So this checklist is just a reminder of what we just covered together today. Tom talked about savings plans and reserved instances with the coverage and the utilization report. So go check out those reports. They will give you lots of insights. We talked about enabling expiration alerts, setting thresholds for spend and usage metrics for AWS budgets. We talked about budgets reports also and cost anomaly detection. So feel free to check the documentation and to look into the AWS console for those features. And also I talked about the cost and usage report. So if you really want to have this granularity in terms of monitoring cost, feel free to use the AWS cost and usage report. Check out your trusted advisor and also make sure you choose your appropriate AWS support plan. And I think on behalf of Tom and Rob, we thank you for your attention. If you have any question, feel free to write your question in the chat. And thank you. Yeah, Padma, do we have any left questions?
Thank you for that, Ben. Yes, the one final question here, and this question is from JLo Zano. Like, thank you so much for your question. The question is about the CLI command for describing the ECS clusters. I provided on the chat window a page that references a documentation where you can reference the command and use it. And there are a lot of other CLI commands on it as well. It would be similar to describe clusters and provide the list of values that you would like to pull out from your account. Hopefully this was useful. So with that, everyone, today we looked at how you can effectively monitor your AWS costs, and we reviewed some best practices of managing and monitoring your spend. If there are questions that were not answered here today, please post them on forums.aws.amazon.com and email us any feedback. AWS Supports You at amazon.com. We want to hear from you. Tell us what else you would like to see on this show. Thank you for joining us today at AWS Supports You, and happy cloud computing.
Glad to